Hello everybody and welcome to our little session about handling bugs in PyPSA-Earth. Let's take a look at an error message first. Written in red is always in which rule our error was. In this case, in the rule build renewable profiles, and so we know exactly in which script it did not work. Often even more interesting is what is written above the red error code. This usually begins with traceback most recent call last, and sometimes describes very well what the error is about. In this case, for example, it also tells us assertion error, list of regions and regions offshore is empty. Please disable the corresponding renewable technology, and basically tells us that we should remove offshore wind in the config and then it should work. So what we are doing with this error, we are opening the config, we're searching for renewable carriers, and then we simply kick out off-wind AC and DC out of it, and also maybe in the generators, the extendable carriers, also kick it out and save it, and afterwards we run it and it should work. Let's take a look at another error. In this case it says that a type error occurs in line 948 and that it can only concatenate strings, not lists to strings. So when we go into the prepare gas network script in the line 948, we see the code which is failing, and as we can see, we are using a list here and try to concatenate it to a string. In order to prevent this from happening, we just can basically adjust it with a join operator, and something like maybe this here should work, and afterwards we won't get any error again in this section. So we are solving this like this, running it, and afterwards, if the run is positive, we want to share this with the community so that everyone no longer receives this error. For this, we are creating a new issue in the PyPSA-Earth repository. We are doing this with this button and click on bug report. I have already done this for us, so I created a new issue, described it with a little description, and copied the error message into it. Afterwards, we have a button here which says create branch. Therefore, we create a branch, do our adjustments in this branch, commit it, and make a pull request. In the pull request, we need one reviewer which is reviewing our adjustments to the code, and if he or she says, hey, that's okay, we can merge it into the main branch. And no one in the community has any longer this kind of error or issue. Sometimes, however, it's not that simple, and we don't know the solution just by looking at the code and the error message. For example, in this case, here we get a type error in the rule prepare gas network. It says unsupported operand types for plus, float, and string. So basically it says you cannot summarize a float value and a string value. And we as it's a method, we don't even know what do we get back of it and stuff like that. And to know more about the values, we try to debug it. To do this, we go into the terminal and change the directory to scripts, and afterwards opening a new Visual Studio Code application with code dot. To debug prepare gas network, we are opening the script, and before debugging it, we have to look if everything under mock snakemake corresponds to our config settings. So what we are doing is we are typing mock snakemake, and here we have to check if every parameter in here corresponds to our own config settings. If it is so, in my case I already checked before, we can go to the debug section and press debug. We want to debug a Python file, and afterwards we are debugging this script. This can take a little while. So after a little while, we will fly into the corresponding error during debugging and can then check the corresponding values via the debugging console to get a better insight into why this is not working. In this case, we go into the debugging console. Let's have a look what's the value of this one. It's empty, but it's a string. Afterwards, maybe check this one. What's the value of this? It's a string, and this would be perfectly fine. We can concatenate those two values, but we do this method before. So let's check what's the value of the return value of this method. And that's a nan value. And nan value is interpreted as a float, and we cannot concatenate floats and strings. So in this case, it's rather simple why we get these nan values as returned, as the return value. As the method name is 3 to 2 digits country, it is basically pretty simple. We have a 2-digit country and we want to basically convert it into a 2-digit country, but we already have it. So this is the reason why we get the nan values. And to prevent this error, basically all we have to do is to say, hey, if we have a length of 3, do this method. If not, just simply return the ID. And the same for the second one. So this is it to prevent this error. Of course, we also have to create an issue and a pull request for this, but this is basically how to debug and how to fix such errors. If you ever have an error where you don't know what to do even after debugging, there are various places where others may have had the same problem or where you can open a post. One is the support channel of the PyPSA-Earth Discord server. Another place would be, for example, the GitHub discussion forum. For some problems, you might also find some discussions in the Open Mod forum. Also, you can always open up an issue describing your bug and send the link in one of those channels. I hope I was able to take away some of the fear of error messages, and I hope to see you in our next session.